Hi, I'm Umbreon Libris. When we talk about Pokemon designs, we usually think in the context of creature designs. We talk about whether their anatomies make sense, whether their colors look natural and go well together, how well the different stages work together as different forms of the same creature, or how well they incorporate elements from their real and mythological inspirations. But Pokemon aren't designed strictly as creatures, as minor or background elements that you might see in some fantasy or science fiction movies, for example. Pokemon also have elements of character design, which is usually about more human or humanoid characters, but concerns things like their body shape, their hair, their clothes, and other ways that they can show their personality. Most Pokemon don't have clothes, thankfully, but they are designed to have personalities, especially in the context of the anime where they're more anthropomorphized in how they act. There are many ways this can be accomplished, but one way to do it is to use archetypes. Archetypes can be useful because they communicate a lot of information quickly. You see an old man with a long beard and glasses, and you probably expect him to be wise, maybe good at giving advice and insight, and he might be a wizard, and if so, he's probably a powerful one, and so on, and all of that from a very simple image. But archetypes can also be harmful if the design elements that we use to call on them are used too frequently, or if there's too little variation in the kinds of characters that they're used for, which can lead to a false impression of uniformity or of universality of the archetype. There's a particular set of design elements that I want to talk about that Pokemon uses frequently, and that's ones related to gender expression. But I'm not an expert in that field, so I invited an old friend of the channel for a chat.
Hello, my name's Brett. I'm a non-binary video essayist. My channel is BrettMWXYZ. I make videos about media analysis and pop culture, and most fittingly for this conversation, I make videos about gender identity.
So, Brett, before we talk specifics, I think we need to clarify what we mean when we say that a design is gendered.
A gendered design is one where you look at a Pokemon, say for example, Incineroar, and you can, like, despite the Pokemon being either male or female, you look at that Pokemon and you think it looks masculine because it uses stereotypes associated with masculine gender expression.
And the same also applies to feminine Pokemon and feminine gender expression. Pokemon designs being overly gendered can be a problem, especially if there's a lot of them.
The problem is it reinforces massive stereotypes, especially when it's, say, Miltank and Taurus. They are, like, unofficially related, but they are a predominantly male and a predominantly female bovine Pokemon. The female one is this, like, nursing, motherly, its like signature move heals itself, and whereas Taurus is this big angry attacking Pokemon, it just reinforces these gender stereotypes that don't need to exist.
A stereotype is basically what happens when an archetype goes bad, when the referent of those elements becomes too rigid. But just to be absolutely clear here, the problem isn't a gender dimorphism. It is possible to make gender variants of Pokemon without overly anthropomorphizing them. For example, you can put the dimorphism on a random element that has no significance, like the spots on Vileplume, for example. Or you can use the dimorphism of real animals, like Pyroar and Unpheasant do. Or you can use human elements in the design, but in ways that are subtle and don't reinforce stereotypes.
I think, say, like, Volbeat and Ilamise is a good example of that, because I only realised that they were gendered counterparts when I read it in your notes this morning. I just thought that they were both a 50-50 mix because they just look like Pokemon. They don't look like a Mr. Volbeat and a Mrs. Ilamise, or vice versa.
The problem is when you apply elements of a human gender expression to your Pokemon design, but only in strictly stereotypical ways.
I'm going to keep bringing up Incineroar because it's a really easy, really obvious one. The stereotypes associated with Incineroar is macho and masculine and strong and brave, and that is why it's popular. Like, even in the lore of Pokemon, it's popular Pokemon because it's this big, strong, macho, like, wrestler-type Pokemon. If all we ever show of men or masculine figures in the media is that, then you're telling, like, kids that men have to be that if you're not a man that's doing that, you're doing it wrong. Whereas with women, you are, if you're only ever showing the mother or the nurse, or your only stereotype is being a woman, you're telling, like, young children that women can only be mothers or nurses, or they can only look after other people. You're stopping young women from doing anything, and you're forcing men into this young men into this like hyper-masculine role.
And that is part of the problem with gendered Pokemon designs. So many of the manly, masculine Pokemon are big, strong, aggressive, muscular, offense-based Pokemon like Nidoking, Machamp, Obstagoon, Bisharp. On the other hand, a lot of the more healing, defensive Pokemon are more feminine, like Nidoqueen, Bellossom, Blissey, Alomomola. But feminine Pokemon also fall under a different stereotype, one that is just as bad and perhaps even more pervasive. They often adhere to a standard of human beauty that even in humans isn't realistic, and they're often overly sexualized. Think of Lopunny, Hatterene, Tsarina, Salazzle.
The only reason these feminine Pokemon are being given these like hourglassy figures, to take Hatterene for example, is because of this idea that is a woman's body. That idea is fallacious, false, a fallacy. Whatever the fancy word for that is. One, that's not what women look like even when they're human, because a lot of women don't look like that, and a lot of people that aren't women do look like that. But also, that's not what female animals look like. No female animal looks like that. So it just doesn't make sense. And I hate it.
Of course, it doesn't really make sense to apply human standards of beauty to creatures that are supposed to be basically animals. Sometimes there are justifications. There's always reasons why Pokemon look the way they do, and some of those do address the genderedness of the design. But
I get a bit weird when these decisions are justified by looking at the inspiration for the Pokemon, because that makes the barrier to entry for understanding the Pokemon way higher. Because like if a kid sees Hatterene and Grimmsnarl, they are not going to immediately clock on that these are based on these things, that they're both hair magic that interprets it different ways because they're based on two different related mythical creatures. They're going to go, big strong man, curvy lady Pokemon. Authorial intent is all well and good, but doesn't really mean anything when we're reading a piece of media. But that's a huge conversation for another set of videos.
Yeah, let's not cover Death of the Author right now. Especially because a lot of these decisions about gendered elements and masculine and feminine Pokemon are subconscious. They're culturally ingrained. If you look at all of the Pokemon that are clearly based on masculine gender expression and compare them to all of the Pokemon that are clearly based on feminine gender expression, you'll notice that there is a lot more variety in how the male masculine Pokemon incorporate those elements than the feminine ones do. There's big, strong men, but also scrawny, artistic men. There's violent, berserk men, but also gallant and noble men. And they come in all kinds of colors, whereas the feminine Pokemon are all either healing and nurturing, or voluptuous and seductive, and they are predominantly pink. The male Pokemon can be anything, whereas the female Pokemon can only be women. And that's because of a phenomenon known as male as norm. All Pokemon are subconsciously designed as male, meaning they can be anything, unless they are specifically designed as female, in which case they are already a thing, a woman. Brett has a fantastic video on this topic that you should watch. It's called Why Doesn't Bugs Bunny Wear Pants, and there's a link in the description. But the biggest proof that this applies to Pokemon is that when gender variants were introduced in Generation 4 and were retroactively applied to a whole bunch of Pokemon from Generations 1 to 3, all of the existing Pokemon designs were used for the male variant, and changes were made to make the female because male is default. But I don't want to give the impression that there is nothing good about gender expression in Pokemon designs. There are ways to do it well. The vast majority of Pokemon aren't clearly gendered, which is good. But what's even more important is that even some Pokemon that are clearly gendered in their designs can still be either male or female. You can have female Berserker with their giant beards. You can have male Primarina with their long flowing hair and gorgeous singing voices. You can have female Pokemon that are called Mr. Rhyme. It's unfortunate that Hatterene and Grimmsnarl don't have this, but at least some Pokemon do. Which brings us to what we think is, or at least was, one of the best Pokemon lines as far as gender representation, and that is the Ralts family.
It was a really good line before they introduced Gallade. I think like Ralts is really good, like to go from like child to because they have like vaguely humanoid child, teenager, and princess, and to show that like you can have a male princess Pokemon. It was really cool.
And actually, in Japanese, Gardevoir is called Sa Naito, Sir Knight. It's got a pretty feminine appearance, but it also has a pretty masculine-sounding name. And with the 50-50 gender split, there's actually a very nice balance. And despite being all dainty and delicate, Gardevoir is still a pretty powerful Pokemon, even without its Mega Evolution. It's still useful competitively, and canonically, it even has the power to open black holes.
With the sort of inherent gender non-conformingness of the original line, making it a cosmic Pokemon, I think, only adds to that, because it literally transcends human thought. Gardevoir's great, is what I'm saying. And then they went, no, but male Curliers turn into Gallades now. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why you can't just use a shiny stone to evolve into a Gallade. Or can't you just use a shiny stone on any Curlier and turn it into a Gallade? Because if you can have male princesses, why can't you have female knights? Now, like, when people will forget that you can get male Gardevoir, they assume that it's just your males are Gallades, your females are Gardevoir. You have to remind people that male Gardevoirs exist.
So that is disappointing. But this is a big societal problem that is much bigger than Pokemon. Some
of the problematic things that we've talked about today, you start realizing that they exist in not only Pokemon, but in a lot of media that you enjoy. You're allowed to still like that media. Don't think that Pokemon designs are sexist, so I can't enjoy Pokemon. You just have to be aware of the problems in the design. And again, it's not Pokemon's fault. It is like the society writ large that Pokemon exists in. And once you become aware of that, you can start to make changes, be it in the media that you make or in the media that you consume.
Hence this video. Thank you for watching, and make sure to check out Brett's channel if you don't already follow them. And let us know in the comments what changes you would like to see in how Pokemon designs incorporate elements of human gender expression. If you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate that. Thank you to my patrons, especially luxury patron Ethan Saffron. And actually, because I'm celebrating this channel's 2-year anniversary next month, if you join my Patreon in the next week, you get to commission one custom piece of Pokemon-style pixel art. The details are in the description. I'm Untitled Chapter. I'll see you in the next chapter.